the MacBook Air, a true technical masterpiece. Dramatic. This might seem like incredibly high praise, but I genuinely believe this has to go down as one of the best laptops probably ever made. Hot takes. Hi, my name is Ben, welcome to the channel and thank you for stopping by. Now, this MacBook Air review, I've had the MacBook Air for around 2 weeks now. And if you want to see my unboxing and first impressions, you can head to the channel and subscribe and have a look at all the other videos as well. But for this video, this is a more full, in-depth review of my time with the MacBook Air and why I think it is absolutely incredible. Okay, so to start this video, let's just cut the crap. This is a perfect laptop if you're in the market for something that is lightweight, that is powerful, I think looks really good still, and outperforms pretty much most laptops out in the market. It has a great keyboard, an incredible battery life, and genuinely, I'm amazed at how good this is. That is what you're looking for in a laptop or a notebook, well, you're in the right place. So let's get into the details. So Dieter Bohn from The Verge, he called this laptop a true triumph. Now, no laptop and really no piece of tech is perfect, but for what this laptop is actually trying to achieve and what Apple are trying to achieve with the M1 chip, I think they've outdone all of our expectations here. So the MacBook Air that I've been using for the past 2 weeks has been the base 7-core, 8GB of RAM, 256GB SSD with that M1 powering everything inside. The likelihood is this is probably going to be the best selling MacBook Air at its price point at £999 for us normal people and a little bit less, I think £899 for students. So looking at those tech specs, you would say something like 8GB of RAM seems pretty subpar or pretty normal in 2020 for a laptop. But very much like how the iPhone has less RAM but outperforms an awful lot of Android devices, it's kind of similar in this regard, where this has way less RAM than a lot of PCs, but outperforms many in the category that it's in. So putting things down in a numbers form is quite a difficult way to perceive how good this laptop is in real life. But I really wanted to kind of really show the comparisons of how far we've come with this M1 chip and how Apple have taken this and obliterated Intel. Now, reviewing this laptop, I didn't want to make it purely about numbers, but the numbers of this are so impressive for what you get for your money. I kind of had to make some sort of comparison just to kind of emphasize the change that has come with this new chip and the new MacBook Air and MacBook Pro and Mac Mini. So I try to reference a computer, which is my own personal computer. It's a 2015 fully loaded MacBook Pro. This had dedicated graphics card, it's got 16 gigs of RAM, and for the time, it was about £2,500, £3,000 to purchase. Now the good thing is, it has lasted me 5 years, but this is where we really see the difference in these new chips. As we can see from the numbers, this absolutely obliterates the Intel chip. Now granted, this is an older computer, but in all the videos that I've seen of this MacBook, people have been comparing it to 16-inch MacBook Pros from just this year, and it is beating them in some categories. Now these computers as well, they are much more expensive. They are dedicated pro machines, upward of £2,000 to £3,000. This MacBook Air is their base level 999 model. Let's just get our head around that. It's really impressive to see what Apple have been able to achieve with this when you purely put it down to a numbers game. But in reality, numbers are numbers, but what does it mean to you when you open this up? Well, running apps really, either if it's on Apple's new architecture or Intel, they run either exactly the same or better, even on Intel. So apps like Lightroom, they have just been a dream to use, both on the Mac Mini that I've been using and the MacBook Air. Editing raw photographs from my Sony a7 III, I think they're about 50 megabyte files. They're quite big. And on my 2015 model, as soon as I start probably editing, I don't know, 3 or 4 photographs, the fans kick in. The computer starts getting hot, and I kind of have to leave it just here at the side, probably put some headphones on to drown out the noise of the fan. The MacBook Air, well, it has no fan. The heat dispersion in this computer is incredible. I've not really ever felt it getting hot. And the fact that it has no fan, it's like a different way of using a computer. All the apps that you use on a daily basis as well, so Spotify or even Tidal that I've been using recently, they run perfectly fine. I've not had any issues. The only app that I would say I've had some issues with has actually been Final Cut Pro, but I think that's a big new Apple Silicon, just a lot of information for its process, and I've had quite a few crashes in that app. But apart from that, actually all the Intel ones have been really quite smooth. And that is the joy of how Apple have created this software. The whole integration, the fact that it's an Intel app or an Apple app, well, for an end user, we should never see the difference. And that, for me, is a real triumph in the new software and hardware. If we compare that to some of the competition, well, they've not had that much success. If we take Microsoft with the new Surface on an ARM architecture, well, that thing was a hot mess and just didn't work. For a lot of us as well, this laptop is going to be for work. And things like the Apple suite of Keynote and Pages and all of that work perfectly fine. They're Apple Silicon. And I use Office with work as well, and that has ran absolutely fine. Even apps like Teams, which on a PC and my other computer just obliterates any CPU and RAM performance, well, this computer, everyone even at work has noticed it's been very smooth. In terms of the physical form factor, well, this is a MacBook Air. It's in the title. It's lightweight. It feels very light. The fact that it has no fan, I think, has really added to the experience of this laptop. It feels totally unique in the Apple lineup. If you've not used a MacBook Air for some time, I know I haven't, the keyboard is absolutely amazing. It actually has just full keys. There's no touch bar on this, which I think actually is a positive. The touch bar, I think, is a bit of a gimmick. But the keyboard is absolutely incredible. I typed this entire review and I've done work on this keyboard, and it is an absolute dream to type on. A huge important factor with a notebook and a laptop also comes down to, well, the portability of it and its battery life. And just like Forrest Gump, this thing just keeps on going and going and going. The battery life is a joke. So as I say, I've had this MacBook Air for a couple of weeks. Now, admittedly, I've also had the Mac Mini, testing that out, and I have been using that probably a little bit more being connected to my desk. But in my time of using this, and that's been Christmas shopping, that's been editing photographs, it's been on social media and with work, I've had to charge this like twice. In the real world, if you are using this as your main computer for work, or if you're a student taking this to university, hopefully you can actually physically go in one day, you know that you only have to charge this up overnight, and it is almost physically impossible to drain the battery within an entire working day. That, for me, has been the dream for laptops and notebooks probably for the past, 9 years. Practically as well as it's been a really small, dainty, very portable laptop, it also means you don't have to carry around huge power bricks like I do. I've got an 85-watt power brick. If I take my Mac anywhere, it's almost like carrying 2 quite large pieces of equipment. This, a battery life that goes on and on and on, and it fits into, well, it's almost like the size of an iPad. I actually found something really quite funny. So because this computer is so power efficient and doesn't actually require that huge amount of power to go in to charge the batteries, I actually have a Nomad power pack, and just through USB-C, I was able to charge using my iPhone charger a MacBook. I find that just crazy. It's absolutely amazing at just how little power this really does need. Okay, well, at home, you're probably sat there, hopefully you are still sat there, thinking, Ben, surely there is something wrong with this computer. Like, everything seems too good to be true. Well, as I say, the keyboard is brilliant. Oh, gone are the days of the butterfly keyboard, which I think will haunt Apple probably for another 10 years. I really like the form factor. It's so light, it's nice to use on your knee, on a table, and the screen is razor sharp. It also doesn't run hot. It has no fan. It is incredibly, it's just a fantastic laptop. Now, obviously, a couple of small things that I would say Apple really have dropped the ball still, especially when you compare how good the cameras are in iPhones, really is that 720p kind of potato can webcam. If I compare it even to a £30, they're definitely a lot more now, Logitech C920, which was £30, it's 1080p, and I've made some awesome videos using that thing. I really think that they should have bumped up, especially in the environment that we're in, doing so many more videos over video call now and webcams. I really think a 1080p webcam really should have been put in all of these computers. The only other drawback to it being an Air, and also this is true to the MacBook Pro, I would say, is the 2 USB-C ports. Now luckily I have actually just been treating this as a laptop, so connecting my Sony to it once at a time, or my phone just once at a time. If you're a bit more of a power user, and I probably would say maybe wait for the next generation of MacBook Pro 16 inches, as I can only imagine we'll see 4 USB-C ports on that thing. But if you are just using this as a laptop, having it on charge, I guess 2 USB-Cs are kind of fine. And I guess the last drawback, again, if you're a power user, but even the fact that we're discussing power users with a base model MacBook Air, I guess is that limitation of the 16 gigs of RAM. I probably would say if you are a video editor or do anything like coding or intensive graphic intense work, I would say if this is your budget, to try and spend that money on the 16 gigs of RAM. 8 gigs has been a bit of a bottleneck for me editing 4K footage on the Mac Mini, and even with that, I would again suggest the 16 gigs at least for video editing. You can get by with 8 gig, but you can't run like anything else, which again, the whole purpose of RAM is multitasking. But if you're a bit more of a light user, you're not doing huge creative jobs with this, and you're just looking for a really great laptop to use as an everyday computer, I genuinely don't think you can go wrong genuinely with this computer. As you can imagine from the tone of this video, I don't really have that many bad things to say about this, which is it's just really nice to be able to say that about tech. I guess the last thing about Apple and Apple devices, and this Mac in particular, £999 is still a sizable chunk of money. It's still a big investment to make, and I can imagine this is probably either your 3rd or 4th video making the decision if you're in the market for this computer. The one thing I would say about owning Apple products is they hold their value better than almost any other piece of tech, probably apart from like camera lenses. The reality is I can still get over £1,000 for my computer 5 years later. If you were to keep this computer for 1, 2, 3, 4 years, actually think of this as an investment of what you get on the back end. If you're able to sell this for £500 in a couple of years or 3 years time, well, that is a decision you have to make if it's worth it. In terms of a technical masterpiece, I stand by this. I genuinely, and I think as well with everybody else in the tech community, are truly amazed by the results of this MacBook and the MacBook Pro. If you are interested in buying, if this is the last video that you watch and you are going to pull the trigger, you obviously can get it from Apple's website, but nobody gets any sort of cut from that. If you head to the link in the description, I'll leave an Amazon affiliate link to this computer. So if somehow I convinced you to buy it, it helps me out as well, which is really cheeky, but these videos don't pay for themselves. To round this video off, I've been using Mac computers for over 15 years. I've even worked for Apple. The only time I've been this excited about a computer and a computer lineup was in 2012 when the original 15-inch MacBook Pro Retina display came out. That was a truly revolutionary computer with SSD, no disk drive, and a truly brilliant display. I really do think that this, with the M1 chip and the new architecture that Apple are bringing and their focus on making these computers the best they can, I think this is the best time to ever be a Mac owner and user. With that dramatic end, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.